This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is February 20th, 2023. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host Luke Sylvia. Luke, today is a very important day in our nation's history. It's very important to celebrate your presidents. It's President's Day. So shout out to Jeff Weltman, President of Basketball Operations of the Orlando Magic. We are hoping that you have a great President's Day.
I'm glad you went that direction. Because I was like, I really don't want to fake I really don't want to fake like I love President's Day or anything. Yeah, shout out to seemingly the GOAT. You know, he's got a good thing going. We got a lot popping, Jonathan. As
we do,
we will look obviously toward the rest of the season throughout this episode, but you know, it could get people down. I don't know which way you're gonna go. I know which way I'm going to go. So, you know, but regardless of how the season plays out, we'll continue to reiterate this. He's done a great job. That front office has done awesome. So we will see. You have a lot going into this offseason. So, yes, happy President's Day to you, Mr. Weltman.
We're going to really take a look. No games since our last episode, at least not any Orlando Magic games, unless you count the Rising Stars game, which we will talk about that. But we're going to really take a look at the last 23 games of this season, take a look at the Orlando Magic schedule, kind of break it down, and just kind of go over what the odds are that the Magic make the play-in. That's really what we're shooting for, what we're aiming for at this point. And regardless of how it's going to make people feel, I only know one way to feel, and that's real. I'm going to be real with how I feel about how this team is going to perform over the essentially last quarter of the season. But before we get into that, Luke, we want to give a big shout out coming up in a couple of weeks here. Not this coming Friday, but the following Friday, we're going to have another watch party on March the 3rd, starting at 6:30. We'll be at Burton's, located at 801 East Washington Street. Going to be a great time. Make sure that you guys come out for that. Luke and I, funny enough, will already be in Orlando for that weekend. For our wives work together now, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And they're having like a little work event in Orlando. So we're going to have to sneak away from our wives' work event to come out and support our Orlando Magic. So they better freaking win. That's all I've got to say.
And I will say, it
caught a little bit of flack for this one.
It looks like a pretty cool setup. A lot of like high top round tables in this place, a pool table in Burton's as well. So, you know, I think that it'll be a nice, if we can get a great turnout for it, obviously we'll see how the team does coming out of All-Star break. We know that you out there depend on your, you know, what makes it happen as far as if you decide to come out to our parties is how the Magic have done as of late. I'm hoping that the Magic can come out hot. You got a couple very winnable games coming out of All-Star break, and we could really be going into the watch party on a great note. That would be really exciting. I think that we can fill this place up. Burton's, from what I've seen and what I see, looks like it could be a fun atmosphere. So hopefully you guys come out.
We filled up every place so far, and it's 5 straight wins for us at Orlando Magic watch parties. We had one in October, November, December, January, February. So 4-1. So 4 in a row we've won. Excuse me. So yeah, it's going to be a good time. Make sure you guys come out again. Burton's, 801 East Washington. That's going to be at 6:30 on March 3rd, which is 2 Fridays from now. So, again, make sure you guys come out. It's going to be a great time. We'll go through the state of the Magic. There haven't been any games since our last episode with the All-Star break and everything. But the Magic are 24-35 on the season. They have the 5th worst record in the league. They're still 13th place in the Eastern Conference. They are 4 games back of the Toronto Raptors for that final play-in spot. The Raptors are in the 10th seed. The Bulls are in the 11th seed. The Magic are 2 games behind of the Bulls. And the Magic are a game and a half behind the Indiana Pacers. So the Magic have an opportunity to make up a lot of ground this coming week and slide finally, hopefully, into that 12th spot. They've been in the 13th spot, it seems like, since the beginning of December, and just been kind of waiting to move upward in the standings. At this point, the Magic are 7.5 games up on Charlotte, which is the closest team below Orlando. So it's really become this kind of six-team race for 8, 9, and 10. Atlanta sitting there at 29 and 30. They're 5 games ahead of the Magic, probably a little bit too far for the Magic to try to catch them at this point. The Washington Wizards are sitting there at 9. The Magic are 4.5 games back of Washington. Probably, it's going to be really difficult to catch Washington. It's going to be difficult to catch Toronto as well at this point. I know we're going to talk about all of that, but that's where the Magic currently sit in the Eastern Conference standings. So far, through, what are we looking at, 59 games here, the Magic have an offensive rating of 111.3, which is good for 25th in the league. They have a defensive rating of 113.9, which ranks 19th in the league. Overall net rating is negative 2.6, which is 25th in the league, Luke. All-Star Weekend. So we had the Rising Stars game on Friday. Paolo Banchero was in the skills competition Saturday night. Mm-hmm. And as we are recording this, the All-Star game is going on literally right now. Luke and I, obviously, we're doing this instead of watching that. But we got to watch the draft ahead of the All-Star game. But what did you think of the Rising Stars game with our boys Paolo and Franz?
The Rising Stars game was good. I mean, you didn't get to see too much of Franz, obviously, but it doesn't shock me. Franz is not a guy that. Last year, that was something we talked a lot about, was Franz just needs to demand the ball more, needs to understand how good he is. I just think that he doesn't really, he didn't care too much about the Rising Stars game. And that's what I'm going to chalk it up to for him. Paolo looked good, didn't make himself look bad by any means, had a couple really impressive shots that he made in that game. It was cool, man. I mean, it was fun, and, it was good to see that, the Magic getting love. Obviously, those guys going picks 1 and 2. So, yeah, it was cool. I mean, nothing crazy. Paolo didn't do anything too crazy in that game. And, you had guys like Alvarado kind of taking it over, being mic'd up and all that. I think it was a fun time for sure. But I don't know that it was anything crazy when it comes to the Magic players that were representing.
Let's just go back to the rookie-sophomore format.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this new format with, the draft and playing to a certain amount is kind of fun. But Franz Wagner, who is the definition of a rising star, he was the second pick in this draft out of this entire, what was it, how many, 17? It was between rookies and sophomores. There was, I don't know how, I think it was 24 guys. Paolo and Franz number 1 and 2, and you see Franz for a cumulative 5 minutes, and then they lose in the first round. Paolo's team wins the whole thing, which was awesome. But you want to see the best young players in the league. You want to see the dunks. You want to see the 3-point shooting. And there was some of that in this game, but it definitely turns it into more of a competition. They're playing harder, I guess, which is a good thing. But to me, growing up as a kid, half of the fun of the All-Star games and the Rising Stars Challenge is it's just a glorified pickup game. These guys were throwing alley-oops, got fast break dunks. These guys are pulling up from 40. They're kind of going back and forth, having these little one-on-one matchups throughout the game. And that's really what I enjoy. And as a Magic fan, selfishly, this might not be a popular opinion league-wide, but I was like, man, we got to see Franz for 5 minutes. And had it been the traditional format in the rookie-sophomore game that it used to be, we would have saw 25, 30 minutes of Franz. And that would have been much more enjoyable for me. And then you would have saw, again, all of the fast break dunks and all that kind of stuff. Most important thing, our guys got out without getting hurt. That's really what I wanted from this whole event.
Well, Franz Wagner's Iron Man, so whatever. But yeah, it was nice to see. I will say the G Leaguers never need to be in that again. They started out getting smoked. Thankfully, Mac McClung, who not only saved the dunk contest, almost saved the G League team as well, had some impressive shot making on his end. So yeah, I'm condense the pool of players. Let's do rookie sophomore a longer format game like the NBA All-Star game. I get it, man. Maybe they think like I'm assuming there was a reason, right? Like I'm assuming viewership was not great for rookie sophomore type games, but for the people that actually love the NBA and love watching talent and the young talent, just better than throwing a wrinkle of like G Leaguers and four teams and shortened games. Like I would just rather, like you said, watch the long format. Maybe we're in the minority, and we probably are, but it was, whatever.
All-Star weekend is very much more so to draw in like casual observers,
Mm-hmm.
to get people familiar with the league's personalities and get them excited about the game. But like, the hoop heads, I wouldn't even call us that.
Mm.
We love our Orlando Magic, but
Magic heads.
Magic heads for sure. I just don't think that they're really concerned about that. I think this whole weekend is just try to reach folks that don't necessarily watch the NBA on a nightly or semi regular basis or whatever. But it was fun. Paolo's team won. The Alvarado stuff, him being mic'd up, to me was my favorite part of the entire thing. Like I'm pretty sure he said the B word, the S word. I think he had a couple of F words in there. I was like, this dude will never be mic'd up ever again. But this is like quality television. And then for him to have the game winner, was just super fun.
Hey, gave him content, and that's ultimately what they're wanting. So maybe he will get mic'd up again. Maybe they'll just, I don't know, if there's a way to be quicker on the beeper button. But yeah, I don't know. But it is what it is.
So I had some stuff going on Saturday night. I wasn't able to watch like All-Star Saturday. I've heard some things about this skills challenge. Give me your take.
Oh, too much stuff. Too many things that don't need to happening. You've got, well, I don't even know, 3 rounds, I think. The first 2 rounds worth 100 points to the winning team. The last round being worth 200 points. Paolo and the rookies, essentially they win the first one, which is more in line with like the normal skills challenge, right, of old. But the passing target's bigger. It's a little bit easier. It's a lot easier, in my opinion, than what it used to be when you had like, LeBron and Wade going at it in the skills competition. That was just so much more fun. Maybe it's just nostalgia and we're the old grumpy men now, but I would prefer that. But Paolo and the rookies win solely because they're just more energetic. They're not just going through it. The Jazz, I think it was the Jazz that like Jordan Clarkson, just like too cool to do it, very slowly going through it, all that kind of stuff. The shooting was abysmal, and that wasn't on the NBA. That was just rookies. Like only Paolo made anything, and it wasn't even anything crazy. Paolo made like a few right at like below the elbow. I mean, there was nothing crazy at all. And it wasn't anything to report. Like rookies didn't win. I don't even remember. Was it the Jazz?
I think Utah won.
Utah won. Yeah, the Jazz won. Antetokounmpo brothers, which turned into 2 Antetokounmpo brothers and Drew Holiday. And it was a Reggie Miller, I think, made a comment about, and how mad do you think Aaron and Justin Holiday are that Drew's playing with a couple other brothers, not their trio. So, it wasn't great. It wasn't good at all. If our guys weren't in it, like I could unequivocally say for years to come, I will not be really watching that challenge at all, that competition.
In that format.
You're right. 3-point contest was fun. 3-point contest was cool. Kevin Huerter laid an egg. He had like 8. Julius Randle had like 13 or 12 or something like that. Damian Lillard made it fun. So now, you got Dame, who's been in the dunk contest before. Now 3-point, he wins the 3-point competition. He's so much fun.
He's had to have been in a skills contest before.
Probably. Who knows? But he's incredible. And he wore his Weber State jersey, college jersey, which was cool. And I think it just said Dalla on the back. So he's incredible. He's electric. So a lot of fun. But 3-point competition is always obviously one of my favorites, and then you have the dunk contest where Mac McClung is absurd in that. And those who know, you know. Shaq last night, did you see that clip where Shaq was
I did
talking to
not.
Mac and he was like they don't know your name, make them know your name. And I'm like, well, a lot of us
They
know
know
his
your
name
name. Yeah.
from the high school clips. Like we've been watching this kid forever. I would love
Yeah.
for him to eventually get a shot at the league. I just don't know that he's obviously a two-way contract now as of a week and a half ago with Philly. But I don't know that we ever see him actually on a full contract in the NBA at this point again. Like, but he was a lot of fun. He's electrifying. He's 6'2", 6'3", by far the shortest guy in the contest. We've seen it with guys like Nate Robinson. You get an extra boost if you're smaller and you can get up. Poor guys like Jericho Sims, you got to basically touch the moon to really be impressed by a guy that's like him. So, Mac McClung, he was great. He was awesome. So he was the highlight of the dunk contest. 3-point contest was the same as usual, except it was starry. Like we talked about, the starry 3-point contest. So they had the starry balls worth like 3 or something like that. 2 of them. So yeah, we'll see how they tweak. I hope that they tweak for the better coming up.
Every dunk contest that we've had, and I can't believe it's been this long now, but every dunk contest, every single year, all I'm reminded by is the fact that Aaron Gordon was robbed in 2016. Like 2020 was bad, right? Like he should have won that one as well. Like to me, that was the year that it probably like wasn't even close that he should have won. But 2016, in my opinion, is the best slam dunk competition performance of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you just like go dunk for dunk, it's just the best performance that we've ever seen. And Aaron Gordon doesn't have anything, to show for it. Now I do have somewhere in this room here, I've got just boxes all over the place still. I don't know if I've ever showed you this, but I have a signed photo signed by Aaron Gordon of the chair in the air dunk over stuff. And it's got like the Toronto 2016 All-Star Game logo on there. That's one of my favorite like pieces of memorabilia that I own, because like it's a piece of Magic history. It's a piece of NBA history. It is, I don't think it's arguable. It's the best dunk performance of all time in terms of like the NBA dunk contest. But and then yeah, we've got. What did you think of the draft? I know you're kind of a fan of like the in studio draft a little bit more.
Yeah, I like the banter of like just like things that you might miss when it comes to the in studio crew of TNT. There's nobody like those guys, as casual watchers as they are. As we know, they are still very funny. And so getting them to get like the best out of the team captains, like LeBron and KD, I think it was recently. And I think that it could have been a lot of fun with LeBron and Giannis kind of side by side up on the big wall making picks and everything. Giannis is a really funny dude. I think that the draft tonight was fine. It was good. Like there was some like quotables throughout the draft, but also I think you get more of that when it's in studio. You got a lot going on when it's in the in the arena, and players making you have to be like paying very close attention to catch little remarks that the captains are making. So you get funny moments. I mean, these are all humans. These are guys that like to have fun and joke around. And so, yeah, what did you think? Are you more toward that, or do you prefer the studio drafts?
Well, if I remember the last couple of drafts, I think that was like 2 years ago was when it was like Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert were like the Jazz were like the number one team in the league, and they were the two last guys picked. And like, oh, we're when you play like NBA Jam, like you don't play as the Jazz and stuff like that. And then last year it was the Harden thing, where they both like LeBron was making Kevin Durant like pick James Harden. He just kept kind of going around that. Tonight I thought was really great because they did the reserves first. And I forget who Giannis picked first, but LeBron's like, oh, he picked Dame first. Giannis picked Dame first. And LeBron said, man, I thought for sure you were going to pick your boy Drew. You're all about loyalty, blah, blah, blah. Basically bullying him into having to pick Drew with his second pick, which I thought was hilarious. But what I didn't like is they did the reserves first, and then they did the starters. And the only reason you're doing that is so that you don't have the reserve who gets picked last and is all of a sudden like the last kid being picked at kickball. if you're the last pick starter, it's like, okay, I'm still a starter. But it was Lauri Markkanen because Zion, Zion and Steph weren't able to play in, the All-Star game. So Lowry was kind of made a honorary starter and he gets picked last. But I like that. It's like, who's going to be at the end of the day? If you go back to your locker room after the All-Star break and guys are like, oh man, you were the last pick. Like, yeah, I was an All-Star. What were you bum? So I don't know. I kind of liked it. I thought it was cool how they made it more of like an event, in terms of like the All-Star game and the draft and everything. It was pretty cool. But I also get your perspective as well. But yeah, All-Star weekend, just as you get older, it just kind of doesn't hit the same, unfortunately.
Mm-mm. No. It's like Christmas.
Well, now that I have kids, Christmas is hitting again. Now that the kids kind of understand what is happening.
That's true.
And who knows, maybe when I start to get a little older and maybe if the kids get excited about All-Star weekend, maybe it'll kind of bring the magic, no pun intended, bring the magic back for me, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. Folks, we got a very exciting announcement. We've hinted at this over the course of the last, several weeks here. Talking about our Patreon. So number one, if you didn't know, we do have a Patreon community. You can join at patreon.com/the6manshow. And we talked about wanting to do a very special giveaway for our patrons exclusively once we hit 100 patrons. And this past week, we finally hit 100 patrons. So first of all, a big shout out to our newest patron and our 100th patron, Bol. His first name is his last name. Our patron isn't Bol. That's our patron's name. Bol, his first name is his last name. He joined at our monthly elite tier level. So really, really appreciate you and just appreciate everybody. We started the Patreon about a year and a half ago now, I think, Luke.
Yeah, the start of last season.
Yeah, it was like August of 2021. And had you told me then that someday we would have 100 patrons, I'd be like, what, for real? So the fact that, we've gotten to this point, just a big thank you to all of you, people that listen to the show, obviously, but especially our patrons, because you all help us do what we do on a week-to-week basis. Like, it would be much harder for us to do the things that we do without you guys. And we certainly wouldn't be able to do things like giveaways without you guys. So we wanted to do something really special. Number one, to celebrate hitting 100 patrons, but also really just to thank you all. So the giveaway, we're giving away 3 Fanatics gift cards, so you can get whatever Orlando Magic gear you want. We're giving away one $100 Fanatics gift card, one $200 Fanatics gift card, and then kind of like our grand prize is a $300 Fanatics gift card. So we've already gone and kind of done like the randomizer, and we found 3 random patrons. So a little drum roll here. I'm just banging on my desk. The $100 Fanatics gift card is going to our boy Magic Player History, our boy from Down Under. That was the worst Australian accent probably in the history of the world. Throw another strip on the Bobby. Our boy Magic Player History. Now that I have just disrespected your country, I'm very, very sorry. But you are getting a $100 Fanatics gift card, so really, really hope that you enjoy that. I'll be messaging you on Patreon when all that has been delivered. You'll get it in your email. And then our $200 Fanatics gift card is going to Paul McKenty. A big shout out to Paul. Hope you enjoy that. Hope you get some nice Magic gear. And then last but not least, the grand prize $300 Fanatics gift card is going to Rafael Perez. Rafael, congratulations, man. Again, we'll be contacting all of you to get the best email to send these out to you. And yeah, get yourself a nice Paolo Banchero jersey if you don't have one already. Franz Wagner, Bol, whoever it is that you want. Make sure that you guys take advantage of that, or if you want to get something for somebody else, it's your guys' money. Whatever you want to do with it. We just our small way of saying thank you to you guys, and I hope that you guys appreciate that. So talk about our Patreon. Not only do we shout out our brand new patrons every episode that we have them, we always shout out all of our Hall of Fame tier and elite tier patrons. And we'll go ahead and first shout out our boy, the Court Cousins, who are going to be in Orlando this week. I don't know if they're doing any kind of like pregame events, but if you see Kyle, if you see Peach, at the Amway this week. I think they're going to be there for the Pistons game and for the Pacers game, if I'm not mistaken. Make sure you guys stop and say what up to those guys. Those guys kill it. They grind, all season long, putting out content for you guys, and they are super nice guys. They would love for you guys to come up and say what's up with them and take a picture or whatever. So, again, shout out to our boys, Kyle and Peach over at Court Cousins. Shout out Armin, Carson Tulo, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Julio, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, The Distract, Donkey Punch Dave, It's Not OKK to Say Okiki, Pierre A, Migzors, Nostalgia and M&M's, Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Lil Penny, Eduardo Sanchez, Drum, Danimal, Dutto 15, Bobby Skinner, Goody 93, Teddy Sylvia, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Juan Geraldo, Bill Fulton, Edmund Lagone, Hosea Squealin, Destined for Greatness, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Time Mr. TV, Joe Rothfuss, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95, Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Freakin', Shahin 177, Bulby the Dawn, Himlo Ban Himro, Armprov 221, Ray Pastrana, Magic Kid 714, Let's Spank Don't Tank, Soft Taco Jesse, Barry M, Johnny B, Fuego Nando, Phantom Wolf 72, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Bull, his first name is his last name. A big shout out to all of our 100 patrons. Thank you guys so much. You can find us at patreon.com/The Six Man Show. No Magic games this week, Luke. But folks, do not forget that the day after every Orlando Magic victory, you can get 50% off your online order from Papa John's with code MAGICWIN. Luke, 2 games this week. So on Thursday at 7 o'clock, the Magic will be at home to take on the Detroit Pistons. On Saturday, you play the Indiana Pacers. We talked about this on the last episode. I've got the Magic going 2-0 this week. They need both of these wins. They should beat both of these teams. Luke, what do you think happens this week with the Magic?
I could play tactic here, try to extend the lead that I have in this contest and go 1-1, but I genuinely believe that we go 2-0 this week. So
it's all tactic, though, because if we tie, you keep your lead regardless.
Well, it is still tactic. You're right, but it also is just maybe I wanted to expand the lead a little bit and go 1-1. There's a chance, right? I mean, but I really just think, and number I want, and I also think it's very possible this team goes 2-0 this week. So I'll say 2-0. I'll stick with it.
I hope you're right. I'm going to be at that game on Saturday versus the Indiana Pacers. Any of my nerds out there, I wore these glasses specifically for you all on this pod. It's been a hot minute since I wore the spectacles. Not really. 1-800-CONTACTS did me dirty this week, and I don't have my contact lenses. But your boy is going to be at Collecticon on Saturday and Sunday. I'll be at Collecticon in Orlando at the Orange County Convention Center, I believe. If you are going to be there, come say what's up to me. I would love to meet you guys. Luke, did I tell you who is performing Saturday at Collecticon?
I think you did, but I forgot who you said.
The Yin Yang Twins, baby. The freaking Yin Yang Twins. A bunch of 30-somethings are going to be at the Orlando County Convention Center singing Get Low, the Whisper Song, all of the Yin Yang Twin hits. Salt Shaker, yes. To the window, to the wall, to the wall, to the sweat drop down my... You know the rest. So, you're getting old when you're at the age of this should be embarrassing that I'm excited that these guys are going to be there, but I'm not even low-key. I'm high-key hyped to see the Yin Yang Twins perform at this event. So, I just wanted to shout that out. And then that Saturday night, I'll be at the Pacers game. So I'm really going to need a Magic dub there. But Luke, you're coming out of the All-Star break here. Again, we talked about the fact that you are 4 games back of Toronto for the last play-in spot. You're 4.5 games back of the Washington Wizards for 9. What do you think? Do you feel like 9 is kind of out of reach at this point?
Yeah, 9's out of reach, not just because of you look at it and you're like, well, they're only a half a game up on the Raptors, who you might think that we have a chance of getting at being 4 games back right now. But the Wizards are 10-5 in their last 15. They're playing pretty good basketball right now, especially for a play-in team. I just think that it's going to be very hard. The Magic are essentially, I think, like 8-7 in the last 15. So the Wizards have been better. They're trending upwards. It's just going to be very hard. You cannot, if you're the Magic, you can't play 500 basketball, even, in my opinion, to catch the Wizards. Like you have to do better than that. So we'll see. But I do think, yes, for that reason, even if it's the Hawks that swaps to 9, I think you're not catching that 9 spot.
So I agree with you
Mm.
for a few of the reasons that you just mentioned. And to make up 4.5 games in 23 games doesn't sound that crazy. But we talk about this team all the time because, in my opinion, it was the last quote-unquote somewhat special Magic team, that 18-19 team. My first season covering, the Magic here at the Six Man Show. And the last 31 games of the year, you go 22-9 to finish the season 42-40, and you get into the playoffs. It would take a run like that for the Magic to reach that 9th spot. I'm not saying that this team doesn't have it in them. That was a super special run, regardless of what team you are. For any team to go 22-9 over their last 31, pretty good freaking basketball. I just don't know if this team is going to be able to reach that.
I think so. I know, obviously, I mentioned like the Hawks, if they went from 8 to the 9 spot. I think the Wizards do jump the Hawks in these final games, the last stretch. The Hawks right now in the last like 20 games are 11-9. So you have to, like you said, to get to that spot, furthermore, to get to the 9 spot, which obviously you should need to get to 10. But if you want a shot at that 9 spot, then you have to, like you said, play like they did when they went 22-9 in those 31 games. But I just don't even know what that looks like. I don't know if that's even really honestly feasible. But that's why they play the games, Jonathan. We'll see.
So talking about these last 23 games here, when you break it down into like the strength of schedule, so to speak, the Magic have 10 games left against teams that are below 500. 13 of those last 23 games are against teams that are above 500 at this point. Now, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. You've got the Milwaukee Bucks on March 1st. Now, you're on the road, but Milwaukee's playing their third game in 4 nights. It's the second night of a back-to-back for them. When you play the Milwaukee Bucks at home on, March 7th, again, it's their third and fourth nights. It's their second night of a back-to-back. You play the Miami Heat March 11th. It's their third and 4 nights, second game of a back-to-back. When you play the Knicks on March 23rd at home, same thing. When you play the Nets March 26th, same thing. And the Magic have 2 days rest before that game. So the rest advantage in a handful of these games against teams above 500 in this last 23 game stretch, you do have a rest advantage. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but the Magic are going to need every bit of help that they can get.
Yeah. Well,
now, you do have a couple of games against the Brooklyn Nets, who I know have been initially playing well since moving Kyrie, since moving Kevin Durant. Still not a super talented team, not a bad team by any means, but when you look at their record, I don't think that is necessarily the team that you are playing now.
Yeah.
They are 34-24 on the season. I think at this point, they're probably much closer to like a 500 basketball team.
Yeah. And I did go through, Jonathan. I know that you had said you were looking at like rest advantage, things like that, really for this segment. I went through and I predicted game by game what I think happens, and it gives me a good kind of barometer for what to expect. As you've already laid out, the teams that you play, the amount of teams you play over 500 versus under, rest advantage, things like that. That Bucks game that's at Milwaukee, Milwaukee coming off of a back-to-back. At first, I was like, "Ooh, I might make that a win just because Milwaukee's coming off a back-to-back." And then I remembered, just because the Magic are 1-10 on no rest like that in that situation on the second game of back-to-back doesn't mean the Bucks are like that. The Bucks are 6-1 on the second night of a back-to-back this year. So I just don't have the confidence that you're in Milwaukee, that sort of situation. I don't see it happening.
You know what that means, right?
That means they're going to win.
Yeah, it's a Magic win.
Yeah, if it doesn't make sense, the Magic
just
are
the way
probably going to win the game. So I will say that my list is very logical in this scenario, and it's not necessarily, I guess, my real predictions, but it might be close. That the Magic are beating the teams they're supposed to beat, and maybe surprising a team on a back-to-back that's coming off no rest, basically. But ultimately, what it'll boil down to in these last 23 games is that I have the Magic going 11-12, finishing with a record of 35-47. The total record I'm not mad at. Finishing 11-12, not ideal. Is there a chance this team instead does maybe 3 games better on the win total than I suggested, and this suggests? Absolutely. But I think this gives you a good idea when you're looking at, okay, what do we need to do to get into that playing conversation? You have to do better than 11-12. And unfortunately, that's just like maybe more of a realistic thing to think. Does this team go on a tear? I don't know, but that's just kind of where I've got them at in these last 23.
Walk me through game by game. Tell me where the wins are and where the losses are.
So I've got you winning Pistons and Pacers. I've got you losing at the Pelicans. I've got you losing at the Bucks. I've got a win in Charlotte. Win at home against the Blazers. Loss to the Bucks. Win to Utah. Loss to the Heat when they're coming off a back-to-back. They're 5-3 on no rest. I also think if you're going to beat the Heat this year, you beat them at home in this last game that you end up choking away. I say, we're going Spurs win, Suns at Phoenix loss, at Clippers loss, at Lakers W. Wizards home game, I'm saying it's a loss. I think they're just hot right now.
They also have 2 games rest, and that'll be the Magic's 3rd game and 4th night, so probably a loss.
There you go. Knicks, I have you winning that game. Good shot. I mean, the Knicks are 5-4 with no rest. You're still looking to get a game from them. It's their second night of a back-to-back. I have you beating the Nets. I have you losing at Grizzlies, at Wizards. I have you beating the Pistons, beating the Cavs, then losing to the Cavs. The Nets, they're on a back-to-back. Unfortunately, you're also on a back-to-back. This team stinks on a back-to-back, as we've established. Loss at Miami, ending the season with a loss as well.
I've got to say, going through the list here, I pretty much agree with every single one of these results.
They're logical and maybe some surprises. You win in LA. I don't know that you necessarily expect that at this point. LA's kind of changed their roster, made moves, but I sprinkled in some illogical wins, and you're still at 11-12. So I don't know what budges.
So I think what this boils down to, Luke, and you and I have really been talking about this for weeks now, is when you look at the amount of improvement that the Magic had last year after the All-Star break. Obviously, getting Markelle Fultz back healthy was a big part of that. The Magic played much better when he came back. You tank away probably the last 4 or 5 games of the season. I know you didn't lose all of those, but there was games where there was no Franz. I know Wendell Carter Jr. missed a large chunk of the season at the end of the year there. But for the Magic to make this a realistic possibility of making the playing game, I already feel like this team is probably playing right now, maybe even a little bit better than the team was that the post All-Star break last year, where they were 7th in defensive rating post All-Star break last year. This team is probably already a little bit better than that team, but maybe it doesn't feel that way because the team was so bad for so much of the season last year, and then you had this kind of huge turnaround. But if I was just kind of comparing, this team currently to post All-Star break Magic last year, I still feel like the team is better right now. But I think that's maybe even a little bit more concerning because this team would still have to have that kind of an improvement. Like,
Yeah.
we've talked the last couple of months, the Magic are playing a little bit over 500. You're going to have to play a lot of bit over 500 the last 23 games. Like,
Yeah.
the Magic are probably going to have to go like 14-9, 15-8 over the last 23 games if you're going to have a realistic chance at making the play-in. Now, we both agree like 11-12 is probably likely. It's pretty realistic, I think. If you were to tell me you have to find a way to win 4 more of those games along the way, I don't feel terrible about those odds. Is it unlikely? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're 4 games back with 23 games to go. At this point, let's just be real. It is unlikely that the Magic make the play-in. I don't feel like it's impossible.
You have to, and this is not anything of a surprise to anybody, you have to be better than the Toronto Raptors, who you're 4 games behind. I think the Pacers continue their free fall. The Pacers in their last 15 are 3-12. The Bulls, who are obviously sitting at that 11 spot and you're 2 games behind them, the Bulls are 8-12 in their last 20. You have a chance to pass them. It comes down to the Raptors. And the Raptors, I love this game. I will say this is like the part of being a fan that I do enjoy, is like the ridiculous looking ahead and looking back at what teams are doing. The Raptors are 12-8 in their last 20. They're playing the decent basketball. They're playing play-in basketball.
And just added Jakob Poeltl.
And Jakob Poeltl, who daddied us. So, and the only saving grace here, Jonathan, is that Toronto has the 5th toughest remaining strength of schedule in the league, while the Magic are at 17th toughest. So that's kind of your saving grace if there is going to be any. You need the Raptors to really get hung up on some of these tough opponents that they've got down the stretch. I didn't have enough time to look at essentially their rest advantages that they've got obviously down the stretch here. They have the same amount of games left. They have 23. So you've got to be essentially 4.5 games better than the Raptors. Can you do it? I don't think so. But you, like you said, you've got to have a good stretch here. You've got to go 15-8. Something along those lines. I would say you might even have to be better than that. So
there was a stretch.
I don't know.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
There was a stretch at the end of November, through the first couple of weeks of December, that Kevin and I think this was, maybe it was right after Cole was born. I don't remember. You had missed a pod.
My son,
Kevin
not Cole Anthony.
Your son, not Cole Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
You missed a pod, and Kevin was on the pod with me, and we were coming off of 2 brutal losses at home to the Philadelphia 76ers without Tyrese Maxey, without Joel Embiid, without James Harden.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, we're in the midst of a 4 game losing streak. You had lost 6 out of your last 7. Little did we know the Magic were really smack dab in the middle of a 9 game losing streak. And we went through and we looked at like a 12 game streak where the Magic were playing playoff teams every single night. You went Brooklyn, Atlanta, Cleveland, Toronto, Milwaukee, Clippers, Toronto, Atlanta, Boston, Atlanta. And we were trying to sit there. At the time, the Magic were 5-15 on the season. And Kevin and I are like, what do we have to do to make it through this stretch for the season to still feel salvageable? And we said the Magic have to somehow find a way to go 4-8 in that stretch. The Magic went 6-6 during that stretch. And 4-8 we still felt like was borderline impossible. And the Magic just really, really surprised us, Luke.
Yeah.
Going back the last 15 games, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner have not been playing up to the level that we had become accustomed to the first 3 months of the season. Both of those guys, relatively efficient, Franz more so than Paolo, but both of them hovering around 20 points per game. The last 15 games for the Magic, Paolo Banchero averaging just under 17 points per game, but shooting 36% from the floor, 18% from the three-point line, and 73% from the free throw line. Franz Wagner, the last 15 games, he was close to 20, right, for the season. I think he's still hovering around there for the year, but last 15 games, 15 points per game, shooting 46% from the floor, almost 40% from three, which is very good, is respectable, shooting 75% from the free throw line. We've talked about this the last couple of weeks leading up to the All-Star break. No one has needed this break more than those two guys. If you go through the Magic's last 15 games, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses in there. So you're 8-7 your last 15 games. You've got a 110 to 105 loss to the Miami Heat in there. You've got the 102 to 98 loss to the New York Knicks. You've got the 107 to 103 overtime loss to the Miami Heat. You've got the 10-point loss that we had on Valentine's Day to the Toronto Raptors. I'm convinced if we are getting like December Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero in those games, the Magic have a chance to go 10-5 in that 15-game stretch, maybe even 11-4 in that 15-game stretch. So to me, it's going to take really a few things. Paolo and Franz, the slump ends now. Like we cannot have those guys come back and look the way that they did before the All-Star break. If that happens, the Magic do not have a chance of making the play-in. The Magic come out and drop both of these games, which if you don't have Franz and Paolo playing to the level that we have become accustomed to, that is possible. The Magic drop both of these first two games, all of a sudden my play-in hopes are completely gone. Because then, we said 11 and 12. All of a sudden, now you're going to be lucky to go 9-14 during that stretch. That's not getting you into the play-in.
No.
Like by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to take that. It's going to take the continued brilliance of Markelle Fultz. Cole Anthony is going to have to continue to play at the level that he's been playing. Wendell Carter Jr. is going to have to be healthy for 19 to 20 of those 23 games. Jonathan Isaac is going to have to continue to bump that minutes restriction up and up and up consistently. I know he's not going to play in back-to-back games. Jalen Suggs also needs to continue to play at the level that he's been playing at, defensively and offensively. If all of that happens, the Magic have a chance to make the play-in.
It's a lot.
But all of that has to happen, I think.
It's all got to happen. And thankfully, like you said, J.I. out on back-to-backs. We've only got one of those left. Pretty certain. And that's the...
Two. The Lakers game is a back-to-back.
Oh, the Lakers-Clippers.
The Brooklyn Nets game is a back-to-back.
Right.
But they have the
Cavs.
Wizards.
Yeah.
The Wizards on March 21st is going to be the third game in 4 nights. And then the last game of the season against the Heat is going to be the third game in 4 nights. They might hold him out in those kind of 3 games in 4 night scenarios. I don't really know, or they might limit his minutes a little bit more. But I will very confidently say that last game of the season, even if it's a 3 and 4 nights, if the Magic need that game to make the play-in, Jonathan Isaac would play regardless of what's going on. Even if it was a back-to-back, I think he would play in that game if it is meaningful for the Magic.
So you're saying they play at the Clippers. I'm looking at my notes at this point. So I know that they play at the Clippers, then at the Lakers. That's a back-to-back?
It is a back-to-back. The good thing is I believe they play the Clippers the day before at like 3 o'clock. And then the Lakers game, that is, I think it's a weekend thing for some reason. The Lakers game is like the normal, like 9:30, West Coast kind of tip-off.
Lovely.
So it's a back-to-back, but you've got about like 3 or 4 hours of extra rest.
It is so close to. I didn't catch that back-to-back. I just real close to making that a loss, to where my prediction then would make the Magic 10-13 in the last 23. You go 34-48. It wouldn't shock me if they drop that game. Just you're 1-10, man. There's nothing you can do. No stats you can show me when it comes to those back-to-backs that would make me think that this team like for sure can beat the Lakers. Man, it's either gonna go really well or really not well. Like you said, you drop these next two games that you have to win and that we have basically chalked up as wins. And yeah, I mean, and that you're off on a terrible path at that point. I don't think you're coming back from it unless you literally just rip off something stupid like 8 or 9 straight after those, dropping 2 this week. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I just hope that we're in the conversation in the final few games.
Listen, it is not all doom and gloom.
You're right.
Regardless of what happens.
You're so right.
Over the course of the next 23 games, it's not all bad.
Mm-hmm.
What the Magic cannot do is go like, you can't go like 8-15 over the last 23. Like, you've got to hover around 500, whether that's 11-12, whether it's 10-13. I don't even like 9-14. Like, to me, like, you've got to win 10 out of these last 23 games at a bare minimum.
And
like,
I think
got to hit 34 wins. You have to.
The tough part about all of this is that, yes, I say the Pacers will continue to free fall, and I think they will. You say the Bulls, haven't been. I said the Bulls haven't been playing well in their last 20 games, or 8-12. But all of this urgency that we have about these last 23 games really is pertaining to the difference between the Magic and the Raptors. If the Bulls decide to figure it out somehow, like you have got to play above and beyond, and I think that that's been communicated. But even more so, like, you're not just worried about you versus Toronto, who has the 5th toughest schedule remaining and playing good basketball and all these things, and seemingly things are working well. But like, all it takes is a switch to flip for Chicago or even Indiana, because Lord knows maybe they just needed a break because they have been putrid. And I don't even use that word. That might have been the first time. They have been putrid lately.
I think Indiana kind of, reads the room and is like, you know what?
I think they'll see themselves out.
We've got a 9% chance at the number 1 overall pick right now. I think it's in Indiana's best interest to probably tank the rest of the way here. I think we probably see some healthy Tyrese Halliburton rest, like SGA, maybe not SGA levels, but some healthy Halliburton rest the last couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, you need to free fall quite a bit, though, to get
I can't even believe I'm about to say this statement because I am so not a believer in this player. If the Bulls sign Russell Westbrook, Magic's play-in hopes are gone.
You think so? You don't think
I'm not a Westbrook believer. But if he finally goes like, you know what, like, I'm just trying to fit in and play a role here, I don't think he's going to Chicago. I think he ends up in Los Angeles with the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's trying to win a ring at this point. That's going to be his best opportunity, is in Los Angeles with the Clippers. You're already in LA. You already live there. You've been there with the Lakers. You're swapping jerseys at that point. To me, it makes the most sense for him to sign with the Clippers. But if something crazy happens and he signs with the Bulls, I would be like, well, Magic play-in hopes are probably gone.
I don't know that Russell to the Bulls necessarily puts a nail in the coffin, man. I think Russell could complicate things. I know maybe that whole narrative is played out. Russell's teammates typically do speak highly of him and whatever, but it's play on the court. I just don't know if that's the nail in the coffin. I don't want to find out. Let's be clear. I hope he goes to the Clippers. And we just hope this team, being the Magic, can do something otherworldly. We'll see.
I don't know, a little less Kobe White, a little more Russell Westbrook, might do the Bulls some good. But again, I don't think that is likely to happen. But like you said, the Bulls, talented roster. They've got 3 All-Stars on their roster. If they're able to figure things out over the course of the next couple of weeks, like if the Bulls go on like a 5 or 6 game winning streak, the Magic are probably not making the play-in. The Magic are going to need another December run in them where you win, 5, 6, 7 games in a row. The Magic do that like at any point, they're going to have a chance. You can make up, 2-3 games easily if you go on a 6 game win streak and then you're a game and a half, 2 games back. going into the last couple of weeks of the season. And then really anything can happen.
Yeah.
But the Magic can't waste time. Like, I hope these guys are coming back locked in, because you have a slow start out of the gate after the All-Star break, and all of a sudden, you're in the middle of March and the season's most likely over. Now, they won't let themselves believe that. Like, this team will continue to play, continue to fight like the whole way, but probably like the first week of April, they're gonna be like, man, like the games that we let slip, the overtime loss to the Heat, the overtime loss to the Sacramento Kings, early in the year, losing the double-digit lead on the road to the Oklahoma City Thunder, the three-pointer by Jokic, to lose that game.
Yeah.
Like, the list just kind of goes on and on and on. But you're going to look at those opportunities that were like right there, right for the taking, and you're going to point to 6 or 7 games this year and be like, a couple of minutes in each of these games is the season.
You're going to, and just to talk in more in the immediate, you're going to have to not just win these first 2 coming out of the break, Pistons, Pacers. You're going to have to win in New Orleans, I think, where I have them taking an L right now. But you look at New Orleans last 15, they're 4-11. They've been on a little bit, of a skid there, obviously. They're at 7th in the West right now, I believe. They're going to be desperate. They know what they have to do. But you're playing at New Orleans. You got to win that game. So you got to start out off this break 3-0, going into Milwaukee. You probably lose it, but they're coming off a back-to-back. Maybe you catch them finally. Maybe they're not playing up to their normal 6-1 standards coming off on that second night. I don't know, but you're whatever you think the Magic have to do as a fan, things that you would be satisfied with in the past, where the Magic went 500 in their last 23 games, like those sort of things, like that's got to shift, and you have to expect way
Standards
more.
Needs to elevate.
Continue, yeah. You have to. So you have to, instead of being like, this, the Magic went 4-2 in their 6 games out of the All-Star break. You gotta say, man, I wish we would have gone 5-1 or 6-1, whatever it is, right? Like you have to kind of shift your mindset, because that's what's going to have to get it done in this last 23 game stretch. And I think that we have very well emphasized this. But you've got Pistons, Pacers, at Pelicans, which you can win, at Milwaukee, at Charlotte, absolutely can win. Blazers absolutely can win. Then you got the Bucks again, the Jazz, who aren't that great. Like you have to pile these wins. You have to continue. The more you get here out of the break, the more contagious it's going to be for these guys to see the finish line and be like, we actually, like, we have a very great shot and we can get to this.
You have to win the games that you should win, and you probably need to win about 4 to 5 games that you shouldn't win.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to take. And listen, I know, this seems like, oh my gosh, like we're not going to make the plan. This might be kind of depressing. To me, it's not, because I legitimately believe that it's possible. Mm-hmm. If this team plays up to their defensive potential, and last year it was, I think it was 7th or like 11th post All-Star break last year. Let me go ahead and pull this up while I'm talking here. But the improvements that we're talking about, like this team needs to make, last year post All-Star break, all of a sudden decide not to show me. There we go. 2023. Traditional, we're going to go to advanced analytics here, defensive rating, post All-Star break, and it just keeps jumping back to 2023. NBA.com is really screwing me right now. But if the Magic, all of a sudden, the rest of the way they're 5th defensive rating over these last 23 games, that's what it's going to take. This team is capable of that, but they have to decide every single night that they're going to do it. It's going to take a lot of growing up in these last 23 games. And listen, another reason I said it's not all doom and gloom. If the Magic fall 2-3 games short of the play-in, this team started 5-20. To fall 2-3, even 4 games short of the play-in after a start like that is a successful season for the Orlando Magic. The over-under win total for this team, Vegas is right most of the time. It was set to 26.5 games. If this team gets to 34 wins and outperforms their over-under win total by 8 games, that's really freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
The Magic can fall 3-4 games short of the play-in and still have the 5th worst record in the league and finish with a 10.5% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. We won the number 1 overall pick this last year, and I know to me, it still feels kind of dirty. Still feels a little bit too early to be talking about the draft. But the Magic are at an impasse right now where it would be a crazy successful season to make the play-in after everything that has transpired, everything that they've been through, to make the play-in still a massively successful season. To still have top 5, 6 odds at the number 1 overall pick for this team. And we're not just talking about Victor Wembanyama. We're talking about Scoot Henderson as well, if you're lucky enough to get into the top 2. Either of those guys, like, we go from being like, super, super excited about the future of this team. We go to Super Saiyan excited about the future of this team if you add one of those guys to this roster. The Magic are at a point right now, Luke, where I feel like as long as they play to a reasonable level of the standard that we now hold them at,
mm-hmm.
if they are 10-13 or 11-12 over the last 23 games, as long as we are in that neighborhood, if we fall short of the play-in, you still have to feel very encouraged by what this team was able to accomplish over the course of an 82-game season. And then you're licking your chops again, looking at the draft lottery. And let's say the Chicago Bulls, they're not able to get into the play-in. They don't improve that much over the course of the last, what do they have left? 26-33. So they've played, what is
59.
that, 50? So they have 23 games left as well. All of a sudden, like, you're licking your chops and you're like, man, like two lottery chances. I'm going to go ahead, Luke. I'm going to hit Sim Lottery on Tankathon, and we'll just see what happens here. And Tankathon is literally taking forever. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop. I'm going to refresh the page here. And Tankathon is just telling me no. Tankathon is not loading at all. If you want to queue up Tankathon, Luke, spin the wheel. Tell me what happens.
Yeah. So on my computer, it just did the same thing to me. I think Tankathon's down.
Not great.
Not.
Maybe that's a sign.
Wait, hold on. Let's see. Oh, wait, it worked. Okay. So it finally worked. Orlando. Orlando, 3rd pick in the draft. And where'd the Bulls pick go? Orlando, 8th pick. So 3 and 8. 3rd pick, 8th pick.
Not too bad. On mine, the Magic got the 7th pick. Chicago got the 3rd pick.
That's not great.
Not what we want to see. Not what we want to see. But, folks, that's not likely. Let's keep those bad vibes out of here. It's not likely. It is possible, but it's not incredibly likely. So, again, it was always going to be a long shot of the Magic making the play-in. But the hope for me is still alive, but the Magic have to come firing out of the gates. Like, the Magic probably need to win, 3, out of 4 or 5 out of 6 coming out of the All-Star break to really have a shot at this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it's possible, folks. I think this team can do it. They've just got to figure out everything now. They have to decide on a nightly basis they're going to defend and rebound. Let the offense take care of itself. Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero are refreshed, both scoring close to 20 points per game. If you are a top 5 defensive efficiency team the last 23 games here, those guys' offense is going to be good enough most nights to get you a win if you're one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Yeah.
Is that so much to ask? We'll see. Luke, anything left?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, folks, remember, March 3rd, Burton's 801 East Washington Ave. Magic are going to take on the Charlotte Hornets. We'll be there for another watch party. Make sure you guys come out to that. But outside of that, that's going to do it for this episode. For Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You guys are listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya. Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!
Red!